I'm really happy to be here with Mark Walsh. It's so interesting. We connected because of some ethical marketing stuff, and then I find out he is really one of the leaders in the embodiment movement. And I know a lot of you watching this really respect embodiment teaching. So Mark is the founder of the Embodiment Conference, which has tens of thousands of participants, if not more, actually. The founder of the Embodiment Podcast, which I really enjoyed listening to as well, and the Embodiment Facilitator Course. Mark also has, I was just glancing, Mark. I just want to say hi to you, Mark. Good to have you here.
It's good to see you, George. It's been a tough day, and this has been something in my diary I was looking forward to. It's good to see you.
Yeah, again. Totally. I was also amazed that you have 20 plus years of Aikido training.
Yeah, I started Aikido when I first week of university, 18 years old. So that's 22 years ago. And I was a living full-time Aikido student for 3 years, which
Holy
is
moly.
unusual in the UK.
That's really amazing. I did Aikido. I was lucky to do Aikido for like one summer, but I always really appreciated that experience.
Where did you do that?
Oh God, it was, sometime in college. And then I, of course, I read the book Mastery by George Leonard, who is Aikido master.
Yeah.
That book had a profound impact on me. So I've always kind of had the Aikido principles somewhere in my blood, I think. So you also have extensive nonviolent communication training. So you've also studied with the NVC founder.
Right, a little bit. I met him in Brazil while I was working in the slums of Brazil. I've done some training in that. It's not my main modality, to be honest, now, but I think it's got some good stuff in it.
Totally. Well, I mentioned that because a lot of people watching this know NVC as well. So cool. I am excited to have this conversation with you because you obviously have been you're bringing embodiment into business and into marketing now. So that's really fascinating for me. I just want you to riff on that a little bit because I'm sure I'm going to have questions for you. So so first of all, recently you taught a training on ethical marketing for facilitators.
Loved it.
And there's a lot of people participated, and I think you're well positioned to teach that because you've done marketing very successfully, and of course you also care a lot about thinking through, well, how do we do things ethically, embodied in a way that's with integrity, basically. So what do you mean by embodied marketing? Let's start there.
Okay, step back. So I wasn't taught business or marketing, and I was rubbish at it at first when I started trying to, teach people embodiment, embodied leadership. I've worked in the business sector, always with this passion of my life's purpose, spreading embodiment. But then I had to get good at business. I had to get some basic marketing skills, or else how do you survive? How do you keep going? And that was really tough at first because I was like, well, I don't want to be like some scumbag advertiser. I don't, and then eventually I discovered people like Tad Hargrave, marketing can feel good, and your work and a few other people are out there. There's a woman called Julia Chanteray in the UK. And I went, it's possible to be an ethical marketer. It's possible to do this according to my values. Now my students, often I see they're good at embodiment. They might be a good conscious dance teacher, a yoga teacher, martial arts teacher, but they're rubbish, just horrible at selling it. And that really hurts me because I go, you know what? I want them to do well. And I want the people who have got big hearts and do great things to be out there in the world. And, for me, that is really it's become part of my life's work and a surprise to me. Like, I'm not a marketing guy. I wasn't trained that way. I seem to have someone described me as the one-eyed man in the land of the blind when it comes to sort of marketing in embodiment circles. I don't think I'm good at this. I think I'm good enough at it. And I guess I was like, okay, so I learned the basics. I teach those to all my students now. At the end of all my courses, we do a half day or a day on marketing. And I started getting standing ovations for that part. And it was really touching people because they clearly wanted some way to be successful, to earn a good living, doing good stuff without going the sleazy manipulative route. So that people are relieved. And then I was like, okay, well, I should at least bring in my specialism and combine these. So what I realized is you can have all the theory in the world. You can have done an MBA. You could read great books out there, all of Seth Godin's books. You could watch, 1,000 of your cool videos, which I sometimes sit with in the bath, by the way, George, and me and you had many a bath together in the evening. I'll watch one of your videos in the bath. I find you relaxing. And, but that's all just information, right? And the problem is we have these patterns, these
Yeah.
tendencies, these
Yeah.
default operating modes, and that's just embodiment defined if you want, and they get in the way. So for example, let's say you want it in your marketing to be more visible. That's somatic capacity. Some people in their bodies, they're small, they want to stay small, they want to look small. They learn maybe through trauma, maybe through culture, maybe through gender patterns, whatever, that was the place to stay safe and to be. Maybe, in Britain, you're told don't be too big for your boots. That's a cultural pattern. Women particularly get it in the UK. Certain personalities have it more. Maybe someone was abused and they had to stay small to not make a fuss so their dad didn't hit them or whatever. And then they develop that pattern. And now that pattern is like, someone's like, right, go on the internet and make a video for thousands of people to see. Their whole system's going, no way, no fucking way. I'm not doing that. That'll kill me. So this is just one example. And I mean, some of it's just really basic. Like,
dude, this is really good.
Yeah,
I just have to stop you there.
Feel free to interrupt. I'm Irish.
A couple things. One, you just defined embodiment in the simplest way and brilliant way I've ever heard. You said default patterns.
Yeah, default ways of being, ways of operating, which the body, or how we are in the body. So not our physical size or shape, but how we move, how we breathe, how we hold ourselves.
Right. Yeah, it's not just a mental pattern, but it's actually our whole, flesh and bones are actually acting out a particular way of being, values, thinking, and it's brilliant. I mean, what you said about how people do marketing from sort of like almost a personality, I guess, but it's something that they can learn, or they have learned, and then they can learn differently. Through embodiment, for example, like this is awesome. I mean, what you said, some people, a lot of heart-based people watching this, right, have learned, I guess, to be small or to not make too much of a noise. Or
that's just one, man. Like,
yeah.
Let's take another one, scarcity. So you hear about money mindsets.
Yeah, you're right.
That's not just mental. Like, and people, I've met rich people who always felt in their bones like they didn't have enough. That's a trauma pattern. Oof. That sense of the world is not safe, so I've got to get as much as I can.
That's right.
I mean, my God, our marketing, George, relies upon generosity.
Yeah.
That's an embodiment, to be able to give freely from the heart.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to scarcity. I've got to protect mine. How the hell are you going to do modern, like, internet marketing while keeping that mentality? It's not just mental. It's physical. It's physiological. It's your whole system.
Yeah. No. This is really good. And what you just said about how do you do modern internet marketing with that kind of scarcity mindset, meaning I see a lot of people fear. I see a lot of people fear, like, well, what if someone copies my article?
Right. I get ripped up all the time.
Right. And I'm like, dude, listen, even my course videos are on YouTube, unlisted, of course.
Right.
But someone just wrote me and said, George, I accidentally liked one of your unlisted course videos, and it's in my liked playlist. And she was rightfully concerned. She's like, I unliked it right away because I thought maybe people would see my liked playlist. We found out later that the liked playlists on YouTube are private by default now. They changed that a few months ago.
Okay, yeah.
But I said, listen, if my course videos accidentally get out there, it's okay. Blessing more people, cool. But if it intentionally gets out there, that I'm less comfortable with, because people are, consciously violating the contract they have with me. But intention, it's like, so you're right. It's like there has to be. So how do we? Maybe we'll kind of get into this a little bit. What is your? Maybe you have a training on this, or maybe you worked on this with clients. How do we embody differently so that we can market in a more generous, in a way that's not as fear-based, maybe in
right, not as
ways.
Contracted, not as fear-based, more reflective. Okay, so let's make it simple again. All embodiment is about awareness and choice. Okay, so we're becoming aware of states, which is easy. We just feel like, am I stressed when I tell the price of this course, right?
That's interesting.
And also patterns, which we can't feel. So there's other ways to identify them. And then we change states, which is quick. So maybe it's like every time I ask a client for money, I relax my breath, put my feet on the ground. And I've seen you in your videos do these little centering exercises, breathing in love, breathe out generosity. and I can change my state real quick, and I can repattern that. Changing traits takes a bit longer. This takes practice.
Yeah.
So you mentioned George Leonard's book. That's all about practice. So we know this. We've been on the courses. You change the states quickly, but the patterns need work. So awareness of your patterns. How can you do that? Mindfulness, like noticing your body when you take money out of a cash machine. Noticing your body when you like give change to someone. If you've ever worked in a shop, some people throw change. Some people like hang on to change, and the same with giving and receiving money. Some people like snatch money. Some people like overgive it, like almost, so there's these ways you can become aware of your patterns, and then we can do something different. Like, am I going to just breathe and slow down and take a moment when I'm at the cash machine and actually look at my balance? Because the pattern of being scared of how much money I have in the bank comes from when I was a student 25 years ago and had nothing, rather than now, or maybe even comes from my grandparents. Like, I did some really deep focusing type work. And I realized, like, my grandparents are Irish immigrants, and they were working the soil in Ireland, which is not even fertile soil where they're from. It's like boggy, just to survive. And they were on this, going out on the boats to fish, and, it's pretty rough seas. Yeah. And I'm going, okay, so maybe my work ethic has come from this Irish scarcity or, survival mentality. So it's even intergenerational. Yours might be, there's no point working because someone else will take your money. I work in Russia a lot, and it's like money's dangerous, because if you had an extra cow, Stalin would kill your ass for being a kulak. So it's like you had to be careful there. So my wife, she's Ukrainian, they have a similar pattern. When I say, hey, I made a bunch of money this week, my wife's like, don't tell anyone. Like, and my British side is like, oh, that's a little bit crude to be boasting about money. You're not American, are you? Like this cultural shit, this personal shit. You become aware of the patterns, and then we practice something different. I wish I had a more like rock and roll answer, but it's really that simple.
Wow, man, this is amazing. So when when you're teaching this stuff, right? You're doing this in a single session. I don't know, maybe in a short series. Do you actually walk people through certain like body exercises to kind of get this feeling of that?
Yeah. So we do different things. So I'll have people like role playing, asking for how much money they want for their product, their yoga class, and doing a breathing or a centering exercise during that. We have these embodied yoga poses. So we have one for generosity, and nice. I get people doing that. And we have one for receiving, and there are 3 basic money skills. There's only 3 skills really, which is giving, receiving, containing. So I'm real good at asking for money and receiving it. And some people, pleasure's their thing, not money, right? It's like they can't take pleasure sexually or whatever, power or whatever it is. I'm pretty good at giving, and my weakness is this like organizing, containing one, which is like managing money. There's a body to like, and you know this, right? When you go to your accountant, do you want their embodiment to be like, hey, whatever, I'm your accountant? Or do you want them to be a bit uptight? Personally, I want my accountant to be like, okay, Mark, I'm on time. Can you be on time next time as well? And this is how it is. And this is the embodiment I want to see in my accountant. I want to see that she's got that detail orientation. And
that's a really good one.
There's an embodiment, right? Equally, like when you go to a party and someone's like, hey, come eat. I've got food for everyone. There's free wine. Come, let me introduce you to my friend Todd. You want to see that generosity. That's a different embodiment, right? And equally receiving, like we play games around this. Like I have 10 yoga students stand in receiving pose. Someone has a bolster. Give them we said that's a big sack of money. First thing that happens is out of the 10, half of them start wobbling and getting tense, just as a game. And then we say to the person with the bolster, who do you want to give it to? And they always pick the same person I pick, because you can see who is like welcoming without being needy or graspy or defensive. Right? Like it's like your embodiment, George. Can I comment on what I see? It's pretty positive.
Yeah.
All right. Like I look at you and I go, I want to pay this guy money because I feel like he's ethical and he's not needy, but he's not like super hippy dippy. Like it's just a vibe. I go, yeah, I want to pay this. Before I've even looked at your course. So this works both ways. This works with customers too, right?
Yeah.
And people, I often use the analogy of dating. I say, you know what this is like in dating? If someone's like pushy or needy, that's like yuck. Like we've all felt that before. Yeah. So
this is profound, because a lot of my teaching has been, the strategies, how to run Facebook ads or how to create an online course or whatever. And And over the years, of course, I've noticed that money seems to come easier to some people than others. I guess I'm privileged, I'm lucky, whatever you want to call it. It's always been not a big deal for me, you know? And I honestly credit it back to, I grew up with an entrepreneur father, you know,
Right. So you took it
and
comfortable.
my mother also was very entrepreneurial, and my two older brothers were very entrepreneurial. So it's, of course you take money and you give and you partner and
No big deal.
you do whatever the entrepreneurs do to make enough money and to make, you know, and so.
You just said like 3 embodied skills. Partnering,
Yeah.
that's an embodied skill. Giving, that's an embodied skill.
Yeah.
Taking, that's an embodied skill.
Yeah.
Like,
and the woman who raised, you know, my parents were really busy, so I was raised in part by a woman who, you know, worked with my dad's company, and anyway, she was almost like an aunt who lived with us, and she was very good at containing money, managing it, and very detail oriented. So I never learned any money skills from her, but I caught the vibe, you know. And so I'm also very good at managing money and making, you know, so it's so interesting. And a lot of this embodiment stuff, those of us who are privileged and lucky, we kind of get that early on.
right, you had a model for it. So you took it
Right.
in implicitly,
Yeah.
like maybe that skill of like organizing, managing, or being generous or receiving, you took that in implicitly, and some people have to learn it.
Right.
And that, you know, that could be from a mentor. You know, I had a couple of mentors that I kind of started to learn from.
Yes.
It's really about comfort. So, you know, most people who win the lottery lose all that money again. And they do that because cognitively they don't have the money management skills. So
First of all, this is just shocking. I mean, when I learned that fact, I mean, it's a fact. It's
a
proven again and
Absolute
again
fact.
and again. A huge amount of money comes into and not just lottery. To be honest, I've heard this, not just the lottery. I've heard about this from so many people. It's like money comes in. You know, it could be inheritance, it could be business, or it could be investments, could be some windfall somewhere, and then it leaves again. You know, just
I had the same pattern for years. So before I looked at this, I remember my business, the first couple of years I was poor. It took a while to get going. But after 5 or 6 years, my business was doing pretty well. I was earning maybe 40, 50,000 pounds a year, which was, you know, that's like a pretty decent professional salary.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to my business manager and she said, oh, can I look at your numbers? She said, why are you in your overdraft? I said, oh, I'm always in my overdraft. And she said, but why? You earn decent money. I can see from the coming in. I'm like, I don't know. I always just find something to spend on. And she said to me, well, can you just like not spend the next £2,000 you earn, which is like a day's corporate embodied leadership training, right? And I was like, okay, I'll try. A year later, I still couldn't do it. And that's when I realized I was more comfortable in debt, even though I disliked it, right? So when I say comfortable, people get, they're comfortable with the familiar, even if it's unpleasant. Yeah. So you were comfortable because of your background in terms of like just doing business and asking for what you want and being generous. Someone else isn't comfortable that way. Now I was lucky I had some of those skills, you know, the generosity side of things was always easy for me. Yeah. But I was still more, so I had to really challenge those patterns, and they are insidious. They come through families and cultures. And this, some of my students who are from working class backgrounds, particularly, no fault of their own. Okay. So we're not victim blaming here.
Right.
It also really holds them back. Yeah. And sometimes I take, you know, I'll actually mentor someone. There's this guy I was mentoring in Russia who was really had a kind of really poverty embodiment mindset around money, even though he made a lot of money in tech. And I knew he was going to lose it all real soon if we didn't sort this out. So I would take him to the luxury bathhouse in Moscow. And we would just get, and he'd be like, is it okay if I have some water to drink? And I'm like, no, ask for the water properly, you know. And he like basically just helping him like embody the fact that he was a wealthy guy, and he had to walk and talk that way. Yeah. A, in Russia, you won't get any respect if you don't. There's a cultural piece, but B, he would find a way to lose it if he didn't get comfortable with that.
It's amazing.
So you know, we trained him basically.
Yeah, I do believe this stuff can be learned, can be trained. One example from my life where I had to completely change the way I've embodied myself is public speaking, showing up on video, writing. So I'll tell you this, like I grew up being the youngest kid in the family, always being told to shut up. You know, you don't know what you're saying. Okay. And being an immigrant to the US at an age where I was just learning language, I was bullied for being quiet in class. I was always feeling awkward about my writing and everything throughout the entire school. And so the whole content creating journey has been transformational for me because I've learned to, okay, stand up for myself and speak
Right.
up and be on video.
Stand up, speak up. These are visceral terms, right?
Yes, yes.
Meek is a smallness, right? Stand up is a physicality.
Yeah.
And we've all got different challenges, right? Like we're all screwed up. Like, and we know what, like most people who listen to your stuff, they're pretty developed people, I'm guessing from, you know, the stuff you put out. And it's like, you know, if your problem is you're too pushy or you're not pushy enough. Your problem is you take up space or you take up too much space. Your problem is you connect too much or not enough. You know, like we've all got different challenges.
Yeah, man, this is really good. So what do you, I love that. I mean, we've talked about marketing a little bit. We talked about money. Of course, embodiment is underlying all of it. What do you offer students, clients in terms of getting this kind of training and embodiment so that they can be comfortable with money, be comfortable and thriving in their marketing, et cetera?
I think having any embodied practice is a good place to start.
Yeah.
And then don't leave it on the mat. You know, don't leave it on the yoga mat or the martial arts mat. Like, how does that apply to money? So just start noticing yourself in any financial interactions, online, in person. With cash is useful playing with. There's a bunch of exercises I put online, like money mindfulness. If people Google money mindfulness on YouTube, there's a few people working in the space, not so many with the body. There's a guy in Greece who's doing like 5 rhythms workshops with money in the body. I forget his name right now. I had him on a podcast a couple of years ago. So there's a few people, but even just the basic embodiment skills of like centering and breathing when you do the thing that's hard for you in money. And most people that have a personal growth background, once they get this, they move, because like most of us have done work on like sexuality and this and that and stress and leadership. And it's like, just move that stuff across to money.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay. That's really good. So, of course, I'm going to make sure all the links are in the notes of the video. Is there anything particularly you want to point us to and something that you've got coming up in the next few months?
I don't have anything. It's terrible marketing, George. I wish I had something lined up. I mean, we regularly do free events, which are money and marketing and embodiment and marketing.
Yeah.
So people go to embodiedfacilitator.com and then they'll see events there. There's free ebooks there. And there's nearly always an event there, depending on when people are listening to this, which is like our next. I took your advice, George, which I really appreciate, which is we do them free live and then paid for the recordings. So people can buy the recordings if they want, or they can just get the next free one. So that's all there if people want to have a look at that. For
sure, I will put that in there. And I just want to get and encourage people to check out the Embodiment Podcast. If you like, the audio experience, you have lots of videos on YouTube, right? And
like 1,000. The podcast has a bunch of episodes with you and Tad Hargraves, some other great marketing people like that.
And the Embodiment Conference is coming up. I'm going to be
t-shirt yesterday, man. We got the t-shirt.
Nice. All right.
I got the t-shirt and everything. I forgot. Yeah. So the conference, we have 130,000 people booked in.
Okay. All right. That's a few people.
It's a record breaker. The Guinness book tells me we have to pay them some money to make it official, but
holy moly.
Yeah. And we'll almost certainly, there'll almost certainly be 500,000 there, and maybe 1 million if we get the translation done into Chinese and Hindi.
Oh my gosh.
It's a big event. There's 1,000 presenters.
Yeah.
And we have a really cool computer system that means within all that, you can find exactly what you want. So
it's funny. You have more presenters than most conferences have attendees. That's really good.
It's not hard to get that many for me. I mean, I love the networking. I love embodiment. So I just love all the spread that's out there.
That's the thing. I think I see you as a true hub for all things embodiment. So some people watching this have already, know your work, but I think a lot of people haven't even heard of you. So, I think
George, it's outrageous. We have to put an end to that. So listen, here's what I would say to everyone out there. I'm not everyone's cup of tea personally, okay? I swear I make bad jokes. I'm like
I enjoy it.
Irish guy. George likes me. Some people don't. Okay, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but that's marketing anyway, right? You can't
of course.
People. The conference, however, has something for everyone. And you don't have to like my style to like the conference. And as I said, we've got a clever system so people can find what they want.
Yeah, it's a virtual conference, of course, so you can attend from
free,
anywhere. Yeah.
Totally free. Only the recordings cost money. Your model, and it's live. Making this work available to the world because most people can't travel to teachers, particularly right now. Many people have childcare issues, climate issues. They don't, climate concerns, and it costs a huge amount of money. So we just give like this smorgasbord of like tasting platter of everything you could want. And then, you find whoever you want to go deeper with.
Awesome, man.
This
Anything
has
else
been
you want to
fun.
share before we finish up?
Just George, I appreciate what you do. I like what you put out there. I recommend you to all my students. So it's an honor to be on. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you, man. And I'm just looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you over time. So thanks for all that you do.